All right,
Good.
so I'm going live now, okay?
Okay, let's see if I can see it.
Looks like it's gonna pop on there. All right, so we are on live. You should be able to see it on there and be able to
Let
start
me
that
see.
up.
Yes, I see
You see
this.
it? All right. It's working.
Yes.
It's
How do
working.
I
It's
start?
working. Yeah.
It's working. Where is the button to
So
share?
so if you go in and view it, there should give you an option to say start a watch party.
Let me see. Let me try.
Yeah. I'm gonna try and tag a few
Yes,
people here.
here we go. I
All
have
right.
start watch party. Yes.
All right.
Oh, I can hear you in two places.
All right, so
How
we are on.
fortunate.
I'm gonna try and tag a few
Yes,
people here.
here we go.
Oh yeah, can you turn that one
Start.
down? Yeah, try
Yes.
to mute that one so you don't have to hear that extra then is all. That'll be
Will the
good.
people still hear
Oh
me?
yeah, yep, everyone's gonna hear you just fine. Yep. I still hear you fine. Can everybody hear us? If someone can give me a shout here. I see we got about 14 or 15 watching now. Hi everybody.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Adam.
Thanks for hopping on, guys. We are looking to do a little discussion today. I've obviously been doing some videos, trying to give my understanding of socialism and Marxism and just our political climate today. Trying to understand how our rights are being trampled upon and how we as individuals can stand up and fight against this in ways that really are American, because our American system has really been designed in ways to fight locally for us, to protect our rights. But we've let that get away from ourselves. We've let that get away from ourselves for some decades through our educational system, and through a lot of different programs and things in our country that on the appearance are there for good. It's always typically kind of like right now in this whole crisis. Everything is for safety. Everything is for saving lives, is what we are told, and what they want us to believe. But from all that I see happening, I have truly felt that this is for power and this is for control. This is for government creating, again, even larger government. And we have to recognize that and stand up before it is too late. And so I have Elena Oelke here with me. She saw one of my, yeah, hi. And Elena actually messaged me and said, hey, I actually grew up in Russia and I know these systems very well and could help maybe enlighten some folks on some things that she sees going on that kind of makes her question what's going on in America, right? And so,
Oh, Adam, let's be clear. You have invited me to your show.
my show,
So,
I guess. Yeah, we'll call
yes,
it my
I just
show, I
told you
guess.
that I speak fluent socialism. So, I think both of us can decipher what's going on. And between the two of us, we can help people see the paradigm shift that is occurring in America, and it's unveiling in front of our eyes. And we need to be prepared for what's coming. And we need to be able to recognize, decipher it, break it down, and find out where our rights have been trampled on or upon, rather, and how can we get them back, and
Right.
how can we restore our country and constitutional rule of law versus the tyranny or dictatorship that we do seem to see and a lot of states have been playing out in front of our eyes now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, could you just give us then just a quick rundown? I know that we spoke a little bit briefly. I know that you're from the original Soviet Union. Your birth certificate
Yes,
is
I
is
am
is
original. Yes,
yeah, that your original country actually is no longer, which is kind of a
exactly.
unique thing. Most people.
It is unique.
So give us a little bit just of your history of where you came from and yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Well, I mentioned to you briefly that I was born in Soviet Union at the time. Obviously, the country was under socialism rule, was pretty much totalitarian regime. The people were disarmed. There were no private property. You could not own your home. You could not make money, selling private property, own private property. Basically, if you worked for a factory or if you worked for a particular organization, they would build a number of housing units and they would put you on the list. So you would maybe in line for 30 years before you could have a place of your own. In the meantime, you and your family would share a room in a hostel with a common kitchen. That's sort of the situation at the time under socialism. People think that basically the Soviet Union, we had the Iron Curtain, but that's not all of it. There were quite a few more things that define socialism, and that's why I'm so passionate. And this year I decided to run for United States Congress, 2020, District 06, Michigan, to make sure that America does not become the next socialist experiment. When I grew up, we pretty much had little pioneers, little Komsomol members, and it was a gradual process of making sure every person, no matter where they are in their life and their age, they were reached out by Marxism, Leninism, propaganda. If you were a doctor and if you were attending university, the majority of your subjects had nothing to do with anatomy. This was actually about Marxism, Leninism. So I've practically studied it all my adult and since childhood life. I can decipher it. I can dispel it. I can recognize Bernie Sanders' rhetoric and some people who are social democrats. I can understand where they're coming from. And in me, they will have somebody who speaks fluent socialism and can actually see through the veil, When I grew up and I attended university, I graduated magna cum laude, so was a good honor student. All of a sudden, the news came through the TV set one day that Soviet Union no longer exists. At that time, everybody was in shock. The country fell apart. People were desperate. People were basically going to work, but were not getting paid for months and months and months because most of the professions were paid from the budget. And when government fell apart because it went insolvent, because at some point you do run out of other people's money, as Margaret Thatcher profoundly said and noticed. So at that time when the government ran out of other people's money and Soviet Union fell apart, everybody pretty much was to fend for themselves. A lot of people were desperate. Some turned to the life of crime. Some basically decided that they do not wish to live anymore. It was a very desperate, horrific, terrible time. It is written in blood, trust me, how Soviet Union fell apart. And if it taught me something, when people ask me, Elena, tell us what was the lesson? Because, everything in life is a lesson. I thought about it and I said, my biggest lesson living under socialism was to never depend on government. One day that government was not there for me. I was an honor roll student, bright future, great work prospects, and the government fell apart, industries fell apart. There were no funding for teachers, doctors, anybody. It was a dire situation. Thankfully.
So it sounds like it wasn't even, because you brought up a couple really, big things, I think, right there already. You talked about the democratic socialism, because we're trying to convince our young people today that there's just this form of socialism that's different, that is not really been tried before, that where the people really have more control. And I know, based on my research and understanding, that's just impossible, because as the state becomes in control, the people have less and less power. And is that kind of what you're getting at, right? I mean,
absolutely. Here is the biggest difference between socialism and what we have, capitalism. Even though our capitalism has not been as healthy as I would like to see it. because some of the things like corporate welfare is impeding it and some other things. But let's say we have a capitalism system in the United States. Let's give it that much credit. And it's based on individual responsibility and growing individual. What people do not realize about socialism, and apparently social democrats will not share it with them, is that what they're actually promoting is collectivism, meaning individuals are not responsible. Let's delegate individual responsibility to the government, and government will be our benefactor. And then we're going to be waiting and see how graciously they want to provide us Medicare for all or something else, or minimum wage, in whatever mercy it comes back from the government. What I like the President Trump, when he addressed United Nations a few months ago, he said, the people in other countries believe that their rights come from government. Americans believe that we have inalienable rights that come from God, meaning we will never be government servants. Government work for us. In the socialism system, you are the servant of the government, and I refuse to be a servant. I lived it. I know the consequences. I know the failures. I know the flaws. I would like to caution Americans to make their own mind. Don't take my word for it, but do some research, dig in. I am sure every free American who grew up in this beautiful country with this unique constitution will be able to decipher the message and the failure behind the message, where we want to replace individual, growing individual, having people empowered, having them create the business, having them to live to their best potential, sky is the limit, versus, no, I'm going to delegate all responsibility to the government, and I'll just wait. Whenever they graciously provide me with a few things I'll be happy with, and that will be the outcome of my life. Two different outcomes.
Right, absolutely. And obviously in this time, we see it again. All of this control and these things are for safety. But something else that you mentioned was how it's not. It was everybody that was affected. I mean, doctors, teachers, almost like exactly like what's happening right now. But this has just been a weird situation that I think that's what's woken a lot of people up. To the fact that our government right now has an ability to completely shut us down and control us. And not only that, but they're saying in order for us to be able to open back up, that there's all of these extra measures of control that are going to be required for every single business. For me, that is completely making us a socialist state right now. Is that not? I mean, what do you think?
This is very dangerous. I see it as very dangerous proposition. If you know, Adam, it takes 60 days, my understanding what psychologists say, to break a habit. We have been under, stay-at-home orders for about that long. A lot of our habits may be the thing of the past.
Yeah.
With all the new measures, but we have to retain our humanity. We have to retain being American citizens.
Right. No new normal. We cannot allow a new normal.
Because it's always easy to give up. Little by little, like a frog in the warm water, it's almost impossible to take back once you give up some of your rights and freedoms. Here is my interesting observation, Adam. When socialism came to what we call Russia at the time, Tsarist Russia, right? I always analyzed and I thought, because I studied history, I've studied just about everything you can think of. Trust me, we can strike a conversation on many different topics. But here is what I was wondering. I thought, okay, how could the people be sold this idea of collectivism? In Soviet Union, per se, Tsarist Russia time, Lenin, and his followers. And I thought, that makes sense. They had an excuse, if we may call that an excuse. Tsarist Russia was backward agricultural country. There was no progress. The people were inherently enslaved by the Tsarist regime. They were serfs, So if you think about it, they did not have to give up much. They basically transitioned from being serfs to the Tsar into serfs to the socialistic totalitarian government. They didn't know any better.
Hmm.
That's why it was really easy to sell them on this idea. But to sell the idea of socialism to free Americans who know what it's like to live the life of freedom and liberty,
Hmm.
that is to me unheard of. We as Americans do not have excuse, because what we know is our constitutional rights, our freedoms, and our liberty. And we should be able to see when anyone is trying to remove them or undermine them. We have no excuse.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's pretty amazing. And it's really just because obviously we've stopped teaching history. I mean, that's really what it is. I've had some discussions recently with some folks on posts of mine, talking about homeschooling, because my wife and I started to homeschool 3 years ago, and I truly believe it's been the best thing for us. And I realize that that's not a feasible for everybody out there. But gaining that understanding of getting control again of our educational system first and foremost, and realizing that a wide blanket approach nationwide is not the answer. That we have so many diverse communities in every single state, and then even throughout every single state. I mean, look at us, at how different Detroit is versus every single rural community. And that's one of the major issues that we have right now, is that they're using these large, more what I would call socialistic control measures, because it is large government controls. And I don't believe that that's the way America truly is supposed to be. That's why we are divided down in our separation of powers, all the way down to the county and the local municipal levels. We just for a long time have gotten away from what America truly is, and yes, it's the education, though. I mean, it's incremental. I've listened a lot to Dr. Jordan Peterson,
Yes, I
and
like
so
him too. He
yeah,
is
yeah.
profound.
He is a brilliant mind, but he's also a tormented mind. You can see it so much. He's so real and passionate. I've connected obviously with him in a lot of ways, because I think we're similar like that. But what a video I shared of him earlier, that's what he's talking about, is just. Hold on, now I lost my thought on that. I got off my train of
Well,
thought
you
here.
talked about education and how they're trying to infiltrate basically the levels of
Right.
education.
Oh, it was the
Based on,
incrementalism, is what it was.
yes,
It's because everyone keeps thinking, well, we're not about to lose our rights, and they haven't seen this incremental changes. Like you said, the frog in the boiling pot. I mean, man, that
exactly.
water feels good. I mean, why do you want to get out of
Yes.
this? I
If
mean,
it was
hey,
burning
I
hot, the
mean,
frog would leap out.
exactly,
But it
exactly.
feels
It
comfortable.
feels
Oh,
good
let
for a
me keep
while.
going,
Not a big deal. It's not that hot, right?
Yes.
So.
Adam, if you do some research, I'm sure you did, but this is a figure of speech. The universities and colleges pay liberal speakers like Joe Biden, Elizabeth
Mhm.
Warren, and Hillary
The
Clinton
Clintons, yeah.
hundreds
Hmm.
and hundreds of thousands to come and speak to college students.
Hmm.
And when somebody, I have read several articles, who supports President Trump,
Hmm.
likes to come on campus, they've been shunned and
Shut down. Yeah.
they've been
Well, it's just like all
basically
of this. I mean, we see all of
villainized. So you,
the censorship going on through Facebook and all of our different mediums that we're using right now. I mean,
yes,
through Google, through YouTube, all of these are shutting down these movements of people that really are standing up for
absolutely,
our freedoms. And they're
absolutely.
saying, well, no, we're just keeping you safe, so we're going to censor you. I think that's waking more people up than anything right now. I really do,
I hope
because
so.
it's kind of a big slap in the face. There was, that one group had over 400,000, upwards of 400,000 members, that they shut down. That's a lot of people to upset, when they had this community that they had built and been a part of, and for someone to just say, nope, sorry, we don't think your community should be here. That's a
Absolutely.
that's a scary thing.
There
So
are a lot of videos have been removed.
mhm,
Alternative sources are removed. Via YouTube, there are a lot of interviews with people who were speaking out, asking questions,
mhm,
being respectful, but still YouTube removes them as they
right?
fact check and they decide whose opinion
Yeah,
matters and whose
fact
doesn't.
checked. Yeah, fact checked.
Exactly.
We should say fact checked, right? I mean, that's what.
Yes, and we
Yeah.
know that Facebook fact checker is run by a former employee of Wuhan Chinese laboratory.
Right.
So there's definitely some agenda
Yeah.
underneath the surface or
Yeah.
some deeper things that meet the eye. So people need to do their research.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, we as Americans are not used to be censored. This is new.
Sure.
And if they keep this up, I am afraid that it will become like Soviet Union,
Hmm.
where the only place people felt safe discussing their everyday life was in their home kitchen.
Right.
Because if they, God forbid, spoke about it at work, somebody would report
They'll
them.
get
They
tattled on,
would
and that's going on right now. That's what we have. I
exactly,
mean, hello everyone. That's what goes on in these
exactly.
countries that we don't want to become like.
We're
Why would we
transitioning.
buy into these new methods and then allow them to say that this is the new norm? That expect this to be the way things are going forward.
Absolutely. Adam, would you agree that in pre-COVID days, that people who were antisocial, if I may say so,
Hmm.
meaning that people would not want to interact with other human beings, they would refer to people like Jordan Peterson, right?
Hmm.
To work on these particular issues. Now they wish us all to become antisocial.
Right.
This
Right.
is not normal. I
Hmm.
do not accept it as new normal. We're the people, we're
Hmm.
social beings. We must interact with each other. We must have support systems.
Hmm.
My heart goes out to people who are in difficult situations and people who are mentally fragile.
Hmm.
We have to think about them. The isolation is never good for a human being.
Hmm.
And while we can have empathy for people who are affected with this, we should also have empathy for people who are without work, for people who are being depressed
Hmm.
because they do not have social network to
Hmm.
rely upon and get support from. So there is a lot going on, but the underlying issue here is that they use in this crisis to certainly set some new rules of engagement in our country. And for me, I see a lot of it right out of the Soviet Union, Stalin
Right out the
era.
player, right out their playbook, right? It
Yes,
is. It
absolutely,
is. It is.
absolutely.
Well, and I've seen it, and some people have recognized it. Some people want to try to say that Obama was the best president ever, and I was a supporter in the very beginning. I'll be honest. I mean, I just saw something different, but I was at the time completely outside of politics and understanding. And when he was elected in 2008, I truly had. I wasn't involved, honestly. I didn't really get involved in politics until about 2012 and after. And so it was very interesting to see over that time and really dig in deeper because I really saw some changes happening. I felt in America during his presidency, and I didn't see things that I felt were really good. And so it's like he really drove me to want to learn more. I obviously I had some things that got me involved a little more then as well over the last few years, but I truly saw his way of wanting to control and change the literal fabric of America. He
Well, tell
continued to
me,
say,
give me an
like an
example.
example, he said he would continually say how you don't succeed on your own, right? That you're constantly, no one does anything on their own, is what he constantly would say in speeches. How everyone needs help and assistance, and the roads you drive onto, all these things that you have, everything is, you're all helped by someone. You can't do it on your own, everyone. You need everyone else to succeed. And I never really heard that until his presidency. I felt I've always been, people say, oh, that bootstrap mentality doesn't work, but it really does. There's to succeed in life, from what I've seen, a lot of people think you have to be really smart. And it's not. That's what America is founded on, is that all you have to do is have hard work ethic, and you have to have some self-discipline. If you have those two things in America, you can really achieve just about anything. That's the whole point of America. And I feel like he was trying to tell people that that's not the case anymore, that that really isn't reality. And that's what the whole equity agenda, it really kind of, that really came about and pushed hard during that time of Obama. So,
Well, Adam, you are scaring me. So
I'm pushing a little too deep for you. That's fine.
no, it's
Okay.
not deep. I can go as deep as there is certainly you would like to go. Here is my thought about what he said
Hmm.
about there is a quote that does reference what Obama was trying to deliver in his message. And the quote goes something along the lines, no one succeeds alone.
Hmm.
And I'm a businesswoman. I'm not a politician, don't want to be one, don't need career in politics.
Hmm.
I just see that Congress and our elected officials tell us a lot of things, and nothing really is done. So
Hmm.
that's where I come in. But with the rhetoric of Obama, trying to in my view, while some of this, meaning that yes, we need the support system of the roads and all that, but I'm afraid that to me, that sounded like he tried to sort of undermine the individual to me,
Hmm.
because, my ear is very keen. And I can sift through some of the things that sound a little bit populist, a little bit appealing,
Hmm.
but I want to be always be careful. I think that we need to grow individual. I think we need to strengthen individual. We need to say, hey, you are great. You're a successful business person. You've done great. You earned your education. We're government. We're here to help you, build a support system, what have you. But it's still the individual and individual choices. I'd like to see more emphasis on that,
Hmm.
because we're Americans. We're not a socialist country where collective wins and
Hmm.
individual just no more. We need to always, at all things, make sure that people realize that if they go to the store and if they see people not wearing masks and they get paranoid, my thought, listen, everybody's responsibility to protect themselves. If you feel threatened, if you feel uncomfortable, if you immunocompromised, whatever you are, just make different choices or protect yourself. We cannot expect other people protecting us.
Right.
It's our individual responsibility, whether it's business, where it's our life, where it's
Hmm.
whatever we do in life, always our life, our education, how we deal with people. It's individual choices. And I'm afraid the paradigm shift now is trying to say that it's collective who is responsible. An
Hmm.
individual can just walk in and blame the
Hmm.
collective for
Hmm.
not allowing the individual something, or make an individual uncomfortable. My thought, we Americans, we cannot be sold socialism ideas or socialism paradigms where we are now a collective, an individual doesn't matter. That's very dangerous again.
Right.
Very, very
Right.
dangerous.
Right, because that's, I mean, the foundation of America is the protection of our rights and
Yes.
liberties.
We're
And
sovereigns. Each
mhm,
each person, just like every
mhm,
state, we're sovereigns.
right, and
You know,
that's why I've been learning a lot now, because we do have a rally coming up here tomorrow evening in Grand Rapids at Rosa Parks Circle. And we're going to have sheriffs speaking out. Many people have seen our sheriffs, several sheriffs, not all of them. We have 83 in the state of Michigan, guys. We've only seen a handful of them speaking out for our constitutional rights.
yes.
And I'm so proud of every one of them. Every one of us should be praising them and supporting them. And we all should also be reaching out to our own county sheriffs right now, asking them if they are understanding these executive orders and the situation that we're in, because ultimately it is not legal to uphold these executive orders. And there's enough information and research by attorneys that has been out there. And so we need to empower our sheriffs, guys. That's how we're going to take back America. From all that I've seen and all that I've researched, our powers come down to the local levels. And so if we can empower our sheriffs across America, we're going to help to take back the power from the politicians and the forces that are controlling us.
Whereas ultimately, the decision now is in judges' hands. The
Mhm.
legislature filed a lawsuit confronting Governor Whitmer's executive powers, and we'll
Mhm.
see what that will what that will fetch and which party is going to appeal to Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
We know Wisconsin have gone as high as Supreme Court, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually in Wisconsin, some of these orders or most of them were deemed unconstitutional. In Michigan, we'll see what comes, but the one thing is for sure, regardless of whatever orders they are, people still have the right to petition their government and peacefully assemble
Mm-hmm.
to do so and redress their government. So people should have that right. Nobody should infringe upon that.
Mm-hmm.
And people should be able to express how they feel. And
Mm-hmm.
our constitutional rights allow us to do so. So,
Yeah. So what is your, I didn't ask you about this before. Hopefully you don't get mad at me asking you this one, but just the constitutional rights and the standing up for them, at our rallies, we have had a lot of Second Amendment supporters showing up and having that on the open carry. What are your thoughts on that, I guess?
well, I personally been asked many times about
Mm-hmm.
my position on Amendment as a running candidate. So my position is the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Bottom line, meaning if it's allowed to open carry, if it's allowed by the state constitution, United States Constitution, that people have that right to do so in a peaceful manner, just like they peacefully assemble. So um, in my view, this is a very dangerous slope to try to infringe on the rights of people to bear arms. And that's why I am against red flag gun laws
Mm-hmm.
that have been pushed across the United States. I believe that if we try to usher those laws as a way to combat potentially violence, I don't think this will work. But what it would create is basically the Soviet Union tactics that were used during Stalin era,
Mm-hmm.
when the KGB and the agents and the secret agents were able to use resources of either hired or people who would willfully do that. People would write a letter saying so and so shouldn't do this or shouldn't have the
Mm-hmm.
right to have this position because they're against the government, or they said something that was a political dissent. And then the people in black leather coats would come at night in the black cars. They would pick those people up on a simple letter of the word or a phone
Yeah.
call, and then they would take them to the bunkers. There was no due process. Most of
Mm-hmm.
these people were shot to death
Mm-hmm.
just upon the word or the letter that was never verified, sometimes coerced for the purposes of fighting dissent. And the people who were lucky, they ended up in Siberian gulag type labor
Mm-hmm.
camps. And so the red flag gun laws are very similar in nature, where they're trying to infringe upon the right of the people to bear arms. But what ultimately could happen is the government may use it as a go-to technique to find political dissent that may be inconvenient, or
Mm-hmm.
some people with personal agendas can use that.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's very dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
because in Soviet Union, people were disarmed. And so this is what happens when population has no right to bear arms, or if their rights have been infringed. If people think that the Second Amendment is about hunting, I beg to
No,
differ.
no.
It
It's
is
that's
there.
I keep repeating it to everybody. Yeah,
Yes,
that
it is
it's
there for
not
the
that. Right.
to make sure that if tyrannical government comes knocking and there is a tyrannical government, totalitarian regime
Mm-hmm.
overreach, that people have the right to protect their constitutional rights.
That's
And our founding fathers knew why it's there. I hope we will
yeah.
continue to uphold the Second Amendment and,
Yeah.
and stand for its integrity. I,
That's why I think it's funny too. Some people ask me, well, do you think people should have tanks and bazookas and machine guns? And I go, well, the government has those things, so yes, I do actually, because ultimately, if something were to happen, we need to be able to protect ourselves, and we should be able to have the same arms in all respects, because that's what we need to protect ourselves. So,
Adam, sometimes, pardon me for interrupting, I
yeah.
reflected upon my life at some point, since now that I live in the United States, I have a very good point of reference. I can compare the systems because I can compare the outcomes.
Right.
that makes me very unique for the running for Congress candidate, because I can deliver a very solid and somber message to people. And I could give some real life stories and examples
Mm-hmm.
of why socialism does not work and why it's dangerous for America. But when I thought about it, and I thought, how is it my parents, they were educated, the bright people.
Right.
My father had a law degree from the Jurisprudence Academy. My mom was educated. She held degrees on just about anything education wise, the President Awards, you name it. I was always wondering, why did they do nothing to fight this type of a mentality, this type of, the governing structure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally understood that they already were at a time where everything was lost. There were no arms, there were no freedom of speech, there were no right to assemble peaceably to petition your government.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was disallowed and not available for them. We're in America are still in a unique situation where we have not lost all of our rights
Mm-hmm.
yet. So we have to make sure we exercise them in the manner that they were designed, to make sure that we do not lose them. And then it will be too late to even speak about them.
Mm-hmm.
And Ronald Reagan, I believe, said that the freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We just need to make sure that we don't forget that quote, and we make sure that while we still have some of our rights left, we need to exercise them to make sure that they are not trampled upon, to take all of our rights, and we need to restore our constitutional rights if we
Mm-hmm.
see that they have been reduced or removed from us.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to go back in the very beginning. You had mentioned how your education, that and all of the education has the Marxist ideology intertwined and built into it.
Yeah.
Can you I mean, explain a little bit of that, or an example, or how does that work? I mean, because I know my experience in researching that is the case. I mean, that's the only way that you can continue to control a nation in that way, is to make sure that everyone is buying into that system of power.
Yes.
And so, yeah, help develop that for some people that might not understand.
I always say, Adam, that socialism had better marketing than Nike and Coca-Cola combined. So
Yeah,
the marketing
it's easy to
message
buy
was,
in, right? I mean,
they would, yes,
they get you
the
right there. I
market,
think it's because they get you in the heart, right? They tug at your heartstrings, and
well, the marketing message was posted everywhere. If you go to any office or any clerk's office, government office, business, there were no business, but let's say government business office, because all industries were nationalized. So there
mm-hmm.
were no private enterprise, no private property, as I mentioned. So there were portraits of Lenin, Stalin, Marx, Engels, all these guys everywhere. So you got the visual, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could not get away from
Sure.
visual. Then when you start your schooling, and even starting from the kindergarten, I have the photos of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I probably was, I don't know, 5 6 years old, and we were dressed up for some occasion. And as you see the big banner behind my back,
Mm-hmm.
it appears that the photo has been taken with Lenin standing behind us little children. Maybe we were five
Wow.
or six. At the time when you're a child, you don't know that. But then when you grow up and you look at these photos, like, oh my gosh, they really made sure that we're close to Lenin since we're
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6, and we can identify him before we
Wow.
probably can point out our uncles on the photo of
Wow.
the family. So then when you grow up and you go to attend school, that we talked about kindergarten, you have photos with Lenin and you heard stories about Lenin's childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So you could relate on your level. Then you go to school and you become what they call a little October child.
Hmm.
So you have a little five prone star on your uniform. We
Mm-hmm.
all wore uniform. And then it has a little photo of Lenin in there.
Hmm.
Lenin is in his years like you, let's say 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
So then you wear this and you get acquainted with Lenin's, again, childhood stories, how great he was when he was growing up. And then you transition into more of a high school level. And then they tell you how great and knowledgeable Lenin was, and his education and his family and his brothers, and how they were fighting Tsar, by the way. He comes from the family of revolutionaries who tried to assassinate Tsar at some point, but that didn't work. So some of his family members were either executed or sent to Siberia. And according to the legend, Lenin said, well, we'll get it done, but we'll find another way. And so he did via revolution. But so as you transition through years of your life from kindergarten, and then you're a university student, and that's when they try to recruit you. Then they try to create different organizations. By the way, when you're growing up, there is particular organizations. There are Little October Children organization. There is a high school something organization. It is always studying Marxism. It's always studying. There was something called the moral code of the builder of the communism. And you're supposed to study it, and you have exams.
You said the moral code of
the builder of the communism, yes. And then you have to study history of Communist Party. So if you go to university and you're studying to be a doctor, or if I, went to my university, no matter what your occupational, professional code to be or your skills, you always have Marxism, Leninism, history of Communist Party, and there are exams about it. So they made sure you never fell out of touch
it's
with the
constant immersion. Yeah,
yes, constant immersion.
Wow.
And that was unique. That was very unique. If you think about, like I said, sometimes I watch the TV stations and some news and listen to AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and her saying that landlords now, her proposal is who accept the relief funds have to give equity in their private properties to tenants. I'm thinking, am I dreaming?
Everything that there's every bill that those groups are doing are trying to nationalize or take control. I mean, I think that's really why they've done this to the hospitals. I mean, if you think about it, they're destroying hospitals across the nation that they're going to try to come in and save in some way. I mean, that's all the different restaurants. I mean, there's how many large restaurant chains now are going away. Let alone the smaller one. I mean, it's we're on the tip of the iceberg still for
I don't know
yeah.
Pardon me, it seems to be a delay in me listening, but I'm not sure if that statistics have been proven, but I've heard it in several outlets that apparently there are 20 restaurants that close every day in Michigan that supposedly will not come back to life. This is heartbreaking. This should never have happened. Yeah. We had viruses before. I understand the need for safety, for guidelines, for all the good things to be vigilant about. But if you take the country with the best in history economy, the lowest unemployment, and overnight turn it into the highest unemployment and the biggest destruction since Great Recession, there's something wrong with that picture. There should be better avenues to handle this and not destroy millions of people's lives and livelihoods, because it took people years and years to build and get where they are.
Some decades, right? I mean, the solution should never be worse than the disease, and that's
the cure should never be worse than the disease,
right? And when government is in control, we know that it's a good chance that cure that they think is going to be the cure is going to be worse. I mean, because it's inefficient. It's
very upsetting. I think that when we think about millions of people, some of them do not have time anymore to rebuild their lives, to rebuild their businesses. These are somebody's dreams, somebody's aspirations, somebody's livelihood, and somebody's groceries that people are not able to pay their mortgages, their taxes. In the Congress writing these bills with trillions of dollars, this is not the solution. I believe people who are able to work should be able to work. How can government potentially? Oh, that's my
Oh.
sign. Well, you see, even my sign agrees. But I knew that was going to happen, so that was all planned. But what I was trying to say is that even if you in the wildest dreams think about socialism, they have never disallowed us to work. They have
Hmm.
not.
Hmm.
So they in fact wanted you to work, and they wanted you to work so hard that
Hmm.
you could probably be totally spent by the time you were in your 50s.
Hmm.
But nowadays, the government stops people to work, and then further, they revoke people's licenses for some type of political dissent. Well, that already happened in Soviet Union.
Hmm.
That's exactly what happened.
Right. Right.
And people who disagreed with government measures, they were arrested, and they were, with no due process, sent to the camps or dealt with in the
Right.
bunkers of KGB.
It is amazing, how many in America are not taught about the gulags in the Soviet
Yes.
Union. They don't even they're not aware. They know about the whole Holocaust, but it's like after that happened, it's like everything to do with this ideologies went away and everything's good. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
There's this real deception, I think, that's happened. This veil over the Americans' eyes without understanding. Up until like the 60s, I believe, wasn't it? The gulags were shut down in the 50s or 60s. It's been,
Well,
I
when
mean, it was a long
Stalin passed
time. So,
away in 1956, 53, I believe.
okay.
Um, that's when the Khrushchev, what they call, studied the Thor, and some of the people who participated in this were brought to justice. But the truth is, the millions of people whose lives were destroyed, the millions who went missing, the millions who died or were prosecuted and killed and shot in the basements of the law enforcement at the time, with no due process, those people's life could never be repaid. What they did also when they took some of these people away for political dissent and for potential of somebody's what we call a snitch letter, or some type of imaginary or disagreement with the government or spying or what have you, whatever the reason that they've given in their little telltale, so to speak. um, those people's children were dubbed the children of the enemies of the people. And the people themselves had the title of the enemies of the people. So you could never enter the university if your parents were taken away and dubbed enemies of the people, enemies of the state.
Right.
So there was a whole generation of people who were lost due to these policies. There's several generations maybe. And then there is new generations who were their children, who
Right.
were unfairly dealt with
Well,
on the same.
they knew that they had a harder time, obviously, controlling any of those that had any
Yeah,
dissension in the home,
yeah, yeah,
because obviously parents have a pretty big impact, or should,
yeah.
on their kids. So, and even now here in the United States, we've had, there was most recently, I believe it was canceled probably because of the COVID situation, but there at Harvard University, there is a professor that was talking about trying to eliminate homeschool entirely. And I'd have to look up one of the exact quotes, but it was something along the lines of that children really should be trained and taught by the state. And I mean, it was just mind blowing that we have these, should be brilliant minds at some of these, top universities in our country, saying things like that, because again, even with all of the COVID mess right now, we have all of these experts that we're to look to, but there's multiple experts that have contradicting things. So that's what really you should dig. It should make everyone want to dig further. And obviously, if we get to be more socialized and more controls, it's going to be even harder for us to be able to find the truth. That's the whole point. People don't recognize is that these powerful entities, like these government bodies that are wanting power, that's what they want, is power. And they're going to do everything that they possibly can to prevent us from gaining the knowledge to have the power back in the system. And so Yeah, it's just crazy in this time to see how many people have bought into it. But again, it's that incremental changes we've had over time. We've had enough of these professors at universities that are on this socialist mindsets, that are on the left leaning side of things.
Have you seen, Adam, the Social Democrat convention in August of 2019? I believe there is a YouTube video.
I've watched some of that live. Yeah, I
Isn't that
watched some of it
eye-opening?
live. It was interesting to
It was
see. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, so people need to do their research. I always say that, like you rightfully noticed and noted in the beginning, that no one size fits all. It does not, you know, fit all in education. It does not
Right.
fit all in lifestyle, or we all have a certain experience that we have to go through in our lifetime, and we may be at different parts of our journey. But what we can do is ask questions, and we could do some more research and use some critical thinking, because there is what they say, nothing new under the sun. It may have been done in history before. I can decipher it. I can see it. I lived through it. I'm happy to share my experience to help people to open some of these, avenues for them to do more research and maybe start questioning a few things. If they value the freedoms and liberties that we enjoy in America. Not everybody is as lucky in the world. I know that firsthand.
Yeah. Now I didn't realize I thought my comment feed would have been updating, and I had to scroll down. We had a lot of comments going on here, so let me go through and pick and see. Someone had just recently said, "What was a gulags?" The gulag is the training camps, I believe. Maybe you can give some
They
more
were labor
Yeah.
camps. For example, if there were some people who, for some reason, lucky not to be shot immediately, you know, most of those people never had the due process. They never had court hearings. But sometimes government just used them as the labor force. So they would send them to Siberia or some far removed, remote places. And these people were practically enslaved by the government to perform the hard, heavy labor by hand. And a lot of people died due to the conditions. And um, just they would be basically running them down into the ground to die versus shooting them.
Right. And my understanding is we have no idea even how many the reports are. I mean, within
There's
tens of
millions,
millions off even of
yes,
what they
millions
have
of
as
people.
numbers. So
You have to remember that Soviet Union did not report, of course, all the accurate numbers.
right.
In fact, even the numbers of people who died during World War II, some people say official version is 22 million
Wow.
died on the side of USSR in the World War II. But in official data that some people reference that potentially was more like it is 47 million.
Wow.
So we don't really know. There is official data, and there is data that the archivists and historians have to hunt for and possibly make some conclusions. But I'm sure it's millions.
Absolutely. Now, someone asked a question on here because it said that you're because I've made this comment before that I'm not a politician, that I don't want to be a politician.
Yes.
And someone on here says that you made that comment as well. Did you make that comment? I guess maybe I
Yes,
didn't
I
hear
did.
that. So describe that. Why do you say that? And I'll talk about that a little bit as well as my stance and feeling that I don't want to be a politician. And what does that mean to you? I guess.
What it means to me is that I already have a career. I'm a businesswoman and I'm a real estate broker. So what I believe is in representative government of the United States of America. And what I believe is you do not have to be a career politician to contribute to the representative self-governing of the states and national federal level. So I I went through several candidate schools before I decided to run for office. It was not a one-day decision. I did some research, I took some classes. And what really resonated with me that one of the candidate schools that I took actually resonated with my internal sort of review and check. And I thought, you know what? Maybe the better way to say is I would like to be a stateswoman.
Yeah.
I would like to be a representative of the people.
Hmm.
I do not wish to make this into the career because I already have one.
Hmm.
But what I would like to do is to be able to contribute on behalf of the people. And I don't need notoriety. I don't need to be famous, and I don't need another title behind my name.
Hmm.
I already have enough of those. I've
Right.
collected quite a few
Hmm.
over the lifetime. So, unfortunately, I believe that the reason that the word politician may have a little bit of a negative resonance is because we do not have term limits.
Hmm.
And I believe that we need term limits.
Well, I think that people don't like the word politician just because we've been abused so
All these
badly by
people term it
politicians.
it's a lifetime appointment,
Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we continually get them then, telling us what makes us feel good, and then not doing any of it once they get into office. I mean,
Exactly. I
um,
think the word politician implies a certain amount of I guess, I don't want to say compromise, but a certain amount of rhetoric versus action.
sure, sure.
Being
So,
a businesswoman, I'm more about action than
absolutely,
rhetoric. I'd like to
absolutely.
deliver, not to promise,
Right,
and I
right.
like to over deliver on
Talk
it.
is cheap. We know that. Talk is cheap.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And so yeah, that's my thought, and the way I've always or been discussing, how I'm not a politician because I truly believe that politics is nothing but a system of power. And being that it is a system of power, that's what corrupts people. We hear that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, that is absolutely what the system of politics is. That is the system that once you become like Gretchen Whitmer and have a situation where you have absolute power, you become pretty corrupted, and you smile about things that you shouldn't smile about when you're talking to the public. You do things continually to just maintain your power that you shouldn't be doing, even though the law even is stating the entire legislature, all members of the the majority has voted that you are in the wrong. You should not have power anymore. But she's corrupted by that, right? And so,
It's very dangerous.
and
It's
now,
very dangerous, absolutely dangerous situation to the separation of power.
right,
That
right.
it
That's why we have it in the United States, so that no one can just take over
exactly,
like that. And so,
exactly.
and now I've been elected.
Safeguards,
Um,
safeguards.
yeah,
Yes,
and so since I have been to an elected position before, and I've been in this political environment, but even when I first got started, I said, I don't want to be a politician. And I say that because I do not want that power. I'm not there for the power. The power is truly with the people. And
absolutely.
so that's, like my discussion with you and that I've done on here has been, how do we get that power back to the people? And so, that's why I'm looking for other representatives like yourself that has that base understanding that we need to really stop the growth of government at the state and federal levels. We need to understand how to empower the residents
Empower
that we
people
represent,
and not the
because
government. Exactly.
exactly this power system that they have right now, as soon as you get elected, they try to involve you to make you feel like you're better than your constituents, they call you. I hate that word even. I mean, the residents that you represent. Let's not use any
The
technical
people.
terms for that
Yes.
power system. They're just the residents like yourself. I'm just a resident, always will be. And so I want to be one of those people always, no matter what I'm doing. And in keeping that mindset, you're going to be able to empower those people, understanding that we're no different than any of these people. We just have a little bit of different knowledge. We'll be in a position that we get some of the information up front so that we can help make a decision that isn't going to hopefully impact people's lives as crazy as it is right now, because that's what we need. We need people to understand how to impede in our lives minimally, because that really is the American way that we have lost. We never should have had a government in America telling us that we cannot open our businesses at all, no matter what, because of
Unbelievable.
a virus that is killing
And we
A
had
small
viruses
percentage.
before.
So right.
Viruses before, and if we set this precedent, does that mean that every time there is a novel virus that appears in the world, that we're going to kill economy and people's livelihoods every time? Is that going to be our new go-to technique? That's unacceptable.
Right. Right.
We have to be able to utilize resources in a matter of where we do not destroy people's lives and livelihoods.
Right.
And this is, to me, that's unacceptable. And I hope this ends soon. I
Yes.
hope legislature prevails in Michigan, and I hope we will return back to normal with safety, with whatever we need to do to make the best out of the worst situation. But it's not impossible, and we cannot shut down people's livelihood of a virus every time there is one on Earth. That would be unthinkable injustice to the people.
Yep.
My thoughts on that.
Yep. Absolutely.
I was going to mention one more thing, and gosh, maybe I just got sidetracked when you were speaking about taking over rights, but it might come back to me. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Adam.
Do you see it still going on your feed? It looks like we might have dropped the feed for some reason here. I'm trying to see.
Mine seems to be going.
Yeah, it still says live. Okay, interesting. Well,
Hopefully so.
might be good. If not, I've got all this recorded anyways on my end, like I said.
Excellent.
So no matter what we talk about going forward here, if we got it.
It's such a pleasure talking to you, Adam.
You know, this has been a lot of fun. It really has.
Right, it's great.
Hopefully, some people have learned some things here.
And I hope that people do the research. I hope they use their critical thinking and realize that it's dangerous to allow government to take over, because we as people, that's where the inherent power is.
Right, right. And like I said, that's why
And it comes with responsibility. Our power is not just a power to destroy our own lives.
right,
It comes with
right.
responsibility, individual responsibility. That's
Right.
what it's all about.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. And that's what nobody's ever going to be able to stop this virus. And I think the biggest tell right now that this is a power grab more than anything is that we started all of this shutdown understanding that it was to flatten the curve was the goal, because we didn't want to overrun the hospitals. We didn't
exactly,
want
overwhelm
the
the hospital
systems. Right.
system.
We didn't have enough PPE, they said. And so,
Yes.
because China had shut down, and that's where all of our stuff comes from, which
Yes.
is a whole nother issue, obviously. But so we had to do that. But now they changed the goalpost. That when they continue to change that goalpost,
They keep moving it.
yeah,
Yes,
that,
they
that
keep
you can't
moving
say
it.
that it's because of containing or the virus anymore. It's no, I mean, especially when she makes her threats of, because we're having these rallies, we're gonna have to extend it further. I mean, that's like something that a bad parent even says to their kids, like a veiled threat. Well, if you do this, I'm gonna, no, you're not our mother. But that's the way she's
Adam,
treating us as a state, and it's really weird.
it is unfortunate that it appears like democratic run states experience most of what we call this government overreach, that it appears to be. I don't know if it's something to be expected. Obviously, I didn't expect this to happen, and that sort of just haunts me to see that it's all real, and it gains momentum. So
Yeah.
again, I hope legislature takes care of it and the judge delivers a verdict, or however high it needs to go to be resolved. I hope that Michigan people's rights will be restored to them.
I did hear. I think that we should hear something back from the first judge. I believe by Tuesday, she said that she
That's
would
what
have
I've
something
heard
coming
too.
out. So
That's what
hopefully
I've
we'll
heard.
have
We'll be
that.
holding the fingers crossed. But what I'd like to mention, Adam, is that the hypocrisy is what actually people have to pay attention to. Because you cannot say that, well, I support rights of the people to assemble, but I don't want them to assemble.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? You either do or you don't. You can't have it both ways.
Right.
And you cannot have hypocrisy of saying, and I quote, Governor Whitmer said, I'm in business of saving lives.
Right. Right. That's
And
not the
then-
government's business.
And-
Their
and-
business is to not step on our rights and liberties. That's
And
what the
then-
Constitution's for.
And then she supports the unlimited life abortions in the state of Michigan.
Right.
So let's just be clear about, if we hear some of these messages, no matter what side of the aisle they come from, let's be honest,
Hmm.
they're not all exclusive to the Democratic side,
Right,
okay?
right.
Let's be honest here and
Oh, yeah.
real. So
Hmm.
no matter which side of the aisle some of these messages comes through, I think the thing to keep in mind is that we're the people.
Hmm.
We're responsible for our own safety, for our
Hmm.
own future.
Hmm.
We are sovereigns. We
Hmm.
need to make the best decisions to protect ourselves.
Hmm.
And we need to make sure that our Constitution is live and well, because the
Right.
generations of future Americans depend on what is going to happen
Hmm.
after this all sort of withers down at some point and
Yeah.
simmers down.
Well, in what I think what you're getting at, and because I'm not afraid in any way to say that, yes, Democrats and Republicans alike are problems right now. I mean, we have this political divide and this dichotomy, and the dichotomy always forms because of the power
I love the word
structure.
dichotomy. That's my
Yes.
favorite word.
It is a fun word, dichotomy, and but
Absolutely.
so much in our
Conundrum
world.
pizza any day.
Well,
So
so much in our world is dichotomous, but they try to say now that it isn't, and they create all these different gray areas. Those gray areas, they create them because it creates a separate pocket of power that they're able to work within and be able to get some of the good over to the bad. I feel it's a blending of some systems in some ways. Trying to think of the best way to describe that in another way right now, but it's not coming to me. So, the
the dichotomy, I think, is a great observation on your part, Adam. Is again, it's not exclusive to one side of the aisle. Here is in this simmer down, we can see who is really standing with people,
right,
who is standing for the Constitution of Michigan
exactly.
and the Constitution of the United States, however politically inconvenient that may be in the election year.
Right, right. Well, and that's
So
just it. So the work that my group has been doing with the American Patriot Rally group, like I said, we've been reaching out. Sheriff Darleaf, we've really been supporting him a lot because he really is our constitutional sheriff in the state of Michigan, and
great to have those. Yes.
he has sent out a letter to all of the sheriffs and trying to see why they won't stand up. But again, it's because of the political control that they have over them. We don't want to, especially in this election year, step on anyone else's toes or give our opponents anything we feel that they could use against them, which still blows my mind because, especially if you say that you're conservative and that you're fighting for the people and that you want to limit government and that you want to do all the things that a conservative is to do, I don't see why they're not jumping right now at an opportunity to speak out and protect our rights and liberties. I mean, it really shows the place that we're in without the representation, and really with people on the left and the right that are really there for power. And I'm going to continue to push Republicans and Democrats alike, because anyone that's stepping up really has to. We have to be real. We can no longer tiptoe around politicians that are there for their power, and they changed all the language to make their people feel good when they talk to them. You can really pick it out, and I'm going to continue to do talks like this to really point out some different politicians that are just using language to control instead of using their position and language to empower. So hopefully you'll get elected and we'll be able to see you up there and making some decisions for us that
Make
are
sure you
representing
invite me.
us, right? So
Yeah, make
yeah.
sure to invite me to maybe speak in one of your big rallies. I'll be happy to.
Yes, we'll
That would be
see.
excellent. And,
Let me see what
that would be
else.
my absolute honor to participate and maybe say a few words. I think, Adam, what you're doing is fantastic. What you're trying to break down and make people aware. There's very few people who do that as well as you are. That's why I was so impressed watching your video the other day.
Well,
And
thank
I'm
you.
glad that you connected after
I'm
that.
an amateur at all of this. I continue to learn a lot of it the hard way, like everyone does. But I'm okay with that. I kind of like that now. I've learned that we all need to learn the hard way on a lot of things. If you don't learn the hard way, you really don't change. I feel
Dude,
change.
of course. time for everything.
Change is difficult. Just like Dr. Jordan Peterson says, it's literally to get someone to change something that's ingrained in the way that you are, the way that you act, is literally like the ripping of flesh. To change a habit. And it is. I almost had that. I've talked about my eating habits, and you said 60 days to change habits. There are some different talks I know.
I'm sure there is
but
more than that in some cases.
but that's what I did. So over the last 60 days, I changed my eating habits completely, and I cut out sugar and processed foods and all of this, and it literally was like a ripping of flesh because my body continually wanted this garbage food and the sweets that I would normally eat, and so it is. It's been really neat for the last 60 days or more than 60 days now, about 75, but to really experience that and to, like I said, now building that self-discipline, building that ability within ourselves to have power. I mean, I feel powerful, and I don't want to say that in like
Absolutely.
in any kind of egotistical way. I feel empowered because and like I want to empower people with this energy that I feel again. This freedom. We talk about freedom, and that's what this is about. This is about unlocking the potential in each and every single individual, and then they'll be able to see and live out that American dream the right way, because we don't need government. Everyone can take a path now, I think. There are so many frameworks of success in our world today that people just need to find something that they enjoy doing and want to do and just do it. And it's just so much fun to see people that are able to take that mentality and really just do it. I mean, because when I talk to people that I know have been doing that now, like I have, it's inspiring in itself again, because they talk like I do. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you should see what's," and it's like, that's awesome to see, that someone else is feeling that freedom and, the less stress. I mean, it's stressful at times when you're a business owner like yourself, there's a lot of things involved. But the freedom that you have, knowing that you someone else can't just come in and shut you down, which obviously is not the case with the government right now. So that's why we're talking. But it is that freedom. It's such an empowering, free thing to have. To be in control in a sense of your own life and your own direction. And many people don't have it. So that's we'll keep talking about it. And yeah.
I think that both of us, Adam, my heart bleeds for people who lose their businesses, who are not able to go to work and they're able to do so, people who have to lose employees. My heart bleeds for people who live in generational poverty in our District 06. I drive every day through the streets of Benton Harbor. Talk about Baltimore and the late incumbent Elijah Cummings at the time, and how President Trump pointed out the poverty level,
Right.
what's happening down there. I've seen some of these communities around me being in America for 20 plus years, and very little changed. So I believe if you come from the place of compassion, if you come from a place of where your heart bleeds for people who do not realize that immigrants are busting our borders for a reason.
Right.
We have the best country under the sun. And we should not have people who are struggling.
That's right.
We should not have people who choose a life of generational poverty because someone is not reached out to them and empowered them, like you said, and let them see that sky is the limit. You are the lucky person under the sun, born in America. You can achieve anything. Your potential is unlimited, only limited by your own, ability to dream and to work hard for it. So that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about Americans realizing that it takes a legal immigrant like me to come and tell them, people, you are living in an amazing country. Make sure you take the best advantage of making your life and live it up to the highest potential that you can, because there is no country like this on the face of the earth. And you need to realize that as a collective, as the people of the United States, and just live up to what the founding fathers have created, and make sure you protect your rights for the future generation of Americans.
Amen. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I don't know. I don't see too many other questions going on here, and our feed was still working, I saw, so I did check on there. So it looks like we are
Great.
going good, so that's all right. And other people were still engaging a little bit, but
I think we
um,
probably exhausted everybody, so maybe
yeah, yeah. I mean, we've been
up
on for
and
like
save
an
some for
hour
the
and
for the
13
next
minutes. So
time.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
We can maybe pick up some other topics and
we
do some
should.
things. That'll be good. So yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank
maybe
you
we
so
should do
much.
it another time.
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah,
think it was great for the first run, and
yeah.
I'm hoping that people were not entirely bored with us. I hope
No,
they enjoyed
no.
it somewhat.
It looks like we had quite a few on and off. We had 30 to 40 at one time watching at a time. We'll see how many views
Okay.
we got, but I think it was good. I think it was somewhat informative, and there's some questions that we can go through and answer some of the questions and things
Sure.
afterwards as well on the post, so we can engage that way. So awesome! Thank you so much for joining me. I had a
Thank you
blast,
for
and I
inviting
look
me.
forward to watching you on your journey this year on your campaign, and it'll be great. So
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks so much for having me.
all
Thanks.
right.
Mhm.